Welcome back to On Texas Football's Wednesday night Longhorn Livestream. I'm your host, Amanda Atwell, joined by CJ Vogel and Jeff Howe. If y'all have any questions, make sure to get them into the chat. Super chats jump to the top of our list. And we, of course, have a very hot topic to start off with. I think the chat has very much caught on to that. The firing of Sherrone Moore for cause. So we're obviously going to start off with that. Immediate thoughts from both of you guys. What was your reaction when you saw this news come out today?
Well, I think ultimately it was shock. It was like, wait a minute, if Michigan moved on for Sherrone Moore, I didn't necessarily think it was going to be for cause. I thought maybe they'd let him, go all the way throughout the bowl game and get right. But what's transpired since has been, one, very crazy, but two, it's in a way kind of scary, right? Because obviously you see what's transpired since the firing. Altogether, look, Texas has 21 days. They have 3 weeks to prepare for a game against the Wolverines. And a lot of questions now arise. We know that Biff Poggi is going to be the interim head coach for that game for Michigan. But now you got to start thinking about, on the Michigan side, who ends up playing in this game, who also in their 2026 signing class sticks around with their signing class, right? Malachi Lee is a name that we're going to talk a lot about tonight in regards to whether or not he ends up a Wolverine. There's a big domino effect. And Amanda, I know that we talked about it a little bit before we went on air, but then the domino effect. I mean, Michigan is a big job in a season full of massive job openings. You have to imagine Michigan's right there in the top 3 or 4. And my goodness, it's just going to start another ripple effect in regards to who fills this job and then who fills that job and then how does all this get rectified. But my goodness, it's something, isn't it, Jeff?
After the initial shock, my thoughts went to, one, does Michigan even play the bowl game? Because, and I only bring that up for CJ for the reason you mentioned, like the portal opens on January 2nd and that's the only portal window.
Right.
So you've got Michigan guys that were guys maybe thinking NFL decisions, maybe thinking stay or go for the portal. Now you've had a monkey wrench completely thrown into your plan that's accelerated something. And at this point, you don't even know who you're going to be playing for. Like who's going to be the head coach? Are the assistant coaches going to stay? What does everything look like? If you have an NIL deal or you're getting ready, like what does that look like? How is that structured? Does that change that? So there's so many things. I would think with Biff Poggi being the interim, there's some way, shape, or form Michigan will play the bowl game. It may be with an extremely depleted roster, but I would think they're going to play it. My second thought goes to, fair or not, hey, what does this mean for Malachi Lee? Because Texas recruited him up until they rules prohibited them from contacting him when he signed his paperwork with Michigan. So, that's a prospect Texas really wants. And third, and this is, I don't know, this is the way I'm wired where I always go anytime there's a coaching change. Especially when it's something like this, like you don't see it coming, like I go back to like the Chris Beard situation at Texas a couple of years ago. I think about the assistant coaches and the people on the support staff, people in the recruiting department, people in the video department. They woke up this morning maybe feeling maybe unsure about their job, but maybe hopeful. Now you have no idea. And especially for it to be around the holidays, like just to have that many people with that much uncertainty, knowing about their future, and based on the actions of a head coach that based on what he was alleged to have done was something that was completely avoidable and preventable. So, you may be out of a job for something you literally had no control over. So that's where I go, Amanda, anytime stuff like this happens. I think about the recruiting intern making $20,000 a year that has no idea what next week, tomorrow, much less, a month down the road, what it's going to entail.
Yeah, one of the big factors with this too that I thought about was just that National Signing Day just happened. I don't want to overly speculate, but you have to think that there was knowledge about this potentially being an issue prior to last week. So what is the option for recruits that may feel a little bit deceived at this point? What are their options?
Well, their options are to stick around and can enroll in Michigan when the clock and the calendar turn to 2026, or to then evaluate other options. And what that other option typically is when a coach gets fired or they typically have turnover like this is to request a release from their NLI. Now, that, of course, has to be approved by the university and the NCAA in an instance like this. I would assume more times than not they'll be granted a release. But look, that Michigan class, very talented, and that was a big-time class to follow up a big-time quarterback prospect in Bryce Underwood. Michigan, once again, wanted to surround him with the adequate defense and playmakers around him. Just real quick, a couple of the signees in this 2026 class for Michigan. Obviously, Malachi Lee. That's the first name in regards to Texas. But 5-star running back Savion Hyder, one of the top running backs in all the country. 5-star Carter Meadows out of the Washington, D.C. area. He was a top 30 prospect in the country. Jeff and I joked a little bit with Bobby Burton earlier. The name Titan Davis on the defensive line alone gets me intrigued, because if you have a defensive lineman named Titan, sign me up. But you see there, very high-quality 4-star prospect. From the Texas area, Jamarian Vincent's from Waco Connolly. He's going to be a cornerback. He flipped late from Baylor in the cycle. And then Jordan Deck out of Frisco Lone Star, another talented defensive back, off to Michigan. Michigan's done a fine job recruiting the state of Texas recently. And in this class specifically, the now attention from the University of Texas side goes to, all right, who did we like? Who did we target? Who did we recruit? Or are they going to stick around and fulfill that signature with the University of Michigan?
It is a lot easier now to get out of the national letter of intent, to get out of your paperwork now than it was 10 or so years ago. And mainly because, when it used to happen, there was a time where, schools were taking such a PR hit from it that, hey, it's best just to cut bait. Like if the kid doesn't want to be there, then he doesn't want to be there. The last time I remember Texas really going through one of these deals, I remember this was probably about 10 years ago when Devontae Lampkin was, ended up going to Oklahoma. And, Texas fought it to an extent, and then that was the Charlie Strong staff. And then at some point, they just kind of put their hands up and said, hey, if you don't want to be here, you don't want to be here, and just let him out of his letter of intent and let him go. So that part of it is much easier to go through. But it's one thing to something you said a minute ago, man. Like, it's one thing to hear rumors and innuendo and conjecture and, hey, maybe this might be happening, to, wow, the guy I just signed with, he's not there anymore, and I don't know what the staff is going to look like. Especially with a guy like Malachi Lee, because we bring him up for two reasons. One, yeah, he was a guy Texas really, really wanted. Two, Sherrone Moore's a really big reason why he went to Michigan. Sherrone Moore's a former offensive line coach. Sherrone Moore played a big role in that recruitment. So for Malachi Lee, the conditions have completely changed. Now, I don't know, NIL and all that stuff. There's that layer to uncover and figure out what was done there or wasn't done there. But yeah, it's a really, really big deal. Like when it just hits you right in the face that, oh, things are different than they were, now as I'm going to bed than they were when I woke up this morning.
Yeah, I think another one of the things, obviously, we're talking about the dominoes as far as recruits go, but the dominoes as far as coaching staffs go, because this position is going to need to be one that is filled. There's already a couple names floating around there. So what do you guys think? What do you think are some of the top names that you could see Michigan looking for this role?
Oh, man. So this is, again, part of the domino effect that will then play into effect of where Michigan goes and where other jobs will then have to be opened up. I know, we've talked about it. I've heard this name in regards to other job openings too, and now it feels like it's getting the most steam at the moment. But Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, for whatever reason, maybe he just doesn't like Tuscaloosa. Maybe the shoes for Nick Saban a little bit too big. That's a tough thing to follow up with. But his name has been probably the most mentioned so far since all of this news broke. And now, Jeff, we also talked about Matt Campbell probably regretting a little bit the signing of Penn State, because this had been a job that over the last 5 years or so, had it opened up, he would have been first in line to take this job and to move to Ann Arbor. So it's really interesting. A couple of folks in the chat, Matt Patricia, look, that's not a bad option too. I think if you're Michigan, you have to sit there and say, look, we just had Jim Harbaugh. He was great. He got us over the hump. We got to a national championship. We won that, and then we took a big bump, right? He departs to the NFL. We wanted to keep a lot of what we had, and so we took the interim. Well, you can't take the interim now, right? You have to go out there and make the hire right this time. They didn't do it the first time. They wanted to make sure that the pretty house stayed upright. Now they got to make sure that they go and do a thorough coaching search. And that, to me, is, hey, you're Michigan. You should be able to throw your name out there and attract just about anybody in the country that's not already at a handful of schools.
My immediate thought went to Matt Campbell because CJ hit on it. Like, I'd always heard from people in Ames that, hey, if Matt Campbell ever left Iowa State, the 2 jobs at the top of his list were really, there was 3: Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Those were kind of the 3 jobs that Matt Campbell would leave for. I mean, I've never really heard Penn State, but Penn State's one of those jobs that, hey, if it's open and they call, you kind of have to listen. But Matt Campbell's not an option. I mean, I don't know that you can afford right now to play the game where you circle back on some of these guys that got extensions. Like, hey, do you circle back with a guy like Mike Elko, right? Who, you look at Mike Elko from a football ideology standpoint, lines up with a lot of what you think, hey, this is what Michigan football is. But I don't know if you want to even go down that road.
Well, that's also the thing, Jeff, is too, the first initial report, Sherrone Moore fired for cause, that eliminates the need for a buyout for the head coach.
Yeah.
Could that be something that they then use in their own pocket to, say, hey, we got a couple of extra dollars here. Now we can really go big game hunting. I don't know. What do you think?
It could be. The other, I know Brian Kelly's name's gotten thrown up because he's available. Does he even want to coach at this point? I think you've got to break away, I think, from kind of that Jim Harbaugh lineage, if you will. Like, Michigan's kind of at a point where I think USC was, after Lane Kiffin and after Sark, where it's like, man, at some point you just got to try to stop going to the well from the Pete Carroll era and just start anew and start something fresh. So I think this allows Michigan to do that. Here's the other thing, because of the point you're at and your roster is going to be screwed. Like, there's really no good option unless you could just go poach someone else's coach. It's not the worst thing in the world if Michigan just makes Biff Poggi the interim for 2026 and just takes the stance of, hey, we're going to be first in line when the 2027 cycle starts. The 26-27 cycle, we'll be first in line to hire our coach. So, I mean, I know that's probably not what they're going to do, but if I was advising Ward Manuel, which I'm not, and there's a reason why he's in the Michigan AD chair and I'm here doing this live stream, I would throw that out there, that it's not the craziest idea in the world to just let Biff Poggi kind of guide you. It'd almost be like what Baylor had to do a few years ago. Like Art Briles got fired, was like April or May, you can't hire a new coach. And basically Jim Grobe was like the interim for for that whole 2014 season or 2015 season, and then, or 16, excuse me, it was 16. And then you went and hired Matt Rule after the year because you were basically first in line to hire a new coach. So it's not the craziest idea. I don't think they'll do it.
No, it's not a bad idea at all.
Yeah. It's
especially being this late to the party too. That's tough.
Yeah.
When you start talking about extensions and, guys now moving across the country in some instances. Yeah, I could certainly see that being the case, Jeff.
Yeah, and Rex St. Charles brings up a good point. Won't that kill 1 to 2 recruiting classes? In theory, yes, but where you are in college football now with the transfer portal, it doesn't have to be like a multi-year rebuild. You may just say, hey, let's just wipe the slate clean, take the hit for a year, and then let's get our new coach in a really good position where he can get here in the winter of 26 going into 27 and really build this roster into a contender again. It's a little more nuanced than basketball or baseball, but you can still relatively quickly get it back in football when it goes off track.
We got a super chat here from Rocky Poor. I wanted to bring this up. I started the show applauding CJ Vogel. The troll jib made me so proud. Chef's kiss. This Michigan fiasco is going to make the transfer portal crazy, and Texas needs to reap the benefits. If y'all missed it, you got to go look at the video that CJ posted on Twitter. A little tossed back to the Desmond Howard video, or maybe Matthew will pull it up for us oh so kindly.
It had to be done. It had to be done. And
if you don't get the reference, go watch the Desmond Howard video, because it's pretty good little
Happy Wednesday evening, everybody. Just out here taking out the garbage. Had a couple of thoughts. The first is what a sport it is that we live in, right? What a sport. But as I walk by this tennis ball in my yard,
couldn't help but think at how surprised the folks in Ann Arbor must be that their job did come open at the end of the year. You dig?
Well, thank you, Rocky P.
That was great work. And we got another super chat from Cisco here.
Thank you,
man of the people. Well done. Very well done. I mean, somebody had to do it. So
you dig. That's my favorite. Jeff heard me say it for the last like 3 hours. I think it's a very funny saying.
Yeah, and I got to say, Desmond's been pretty quiet since.
Haven't seen Pete.
No. All right, but speaking of some of the transfer portal craziness and Texas needing to reap the benefits here, who on this roster do you think potentially on the current roster do you think could be a good target should they decide to transfer?
Yeah, this is tough. And, it's always easy to kind of sit there and say, this job has opened up, this coach has moved on. Now you got to go out there and kind of make a wish list of who you'd like to see from said team enter the portal. Obviously, I think a lot of folks have circled Andrew Marsh. I'm here to kind of tell you, I don't think that's ever going to be a possibility between Texas and Andrew Marsh. Mm-hmm. Additionally, look, Sherrone Moore being an offensive line coach, not only does that make things really interesting for Malachi Lee, who just signed in the beginning of December, but Ty Haywood out of Denton Ryan down to Alabama and Michigan towards the back end. Oklahoma was around in that one. He's from the Denton Ryan era, the same high school as Jatavian Sanders, Anthony Hill, Austin Jordan. I don't think Texas is going to be a big player in that one either. Ty Haywood had an opportunity to go to the University of Texas early on, and he just said, hey, I want to go out of state. I want to go far from home. The last one was Blake Frazier, and I know someone earlier in the chat mentioned some of Blake Frazier's measurables there. Look, he a legacy of Michigan. His dad played on the team with Tom Brady and Charles Woodson back in the day, won a national championship with Michigan. I think that's one that, regardless of how bad it is at the University of Michigan, he's sitting there saying, hey, man, I'm a Wolverine. I'm running out hitting the big sign anyways. Doesn't matter who's with me, who's in the stands. I'm a Michigan Wolverine. So it's slim pickings for me in terms of guys from the state of Texas. But you never know. That's a talented roster.
Yeah. It'll also be interesting to see who on that roster decides to opt out of the bowl. If they do decide to hit the portal, it could be a very, very slim pickings as far as who's playing in that bowl game. We got some stats here. Blake Frazier.
Yeah, they're there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So a couple options there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just saying, as CJ said, yeah, he's a Vandergrift kid, but his dad was on the '97 Michigan team that won a national championship, and I remember talking to him as a recruit, talking to some people around the Vandergrift program that that family is maize and blue all the way through. So it's like, yeah, even if like, I don't know, short of like Kyle Flood offering some kind of like equity sharing in the program, I don't know if there's anything that could have been done to get Blake Frazier to Texas once Michigan offered.
We got a very kind super chat here. Claps and hook 'em.
That's a big one.
Hunting golfer. That's
a big one. Thank you very much.
Is that your biggest one you've gotten specifically for you?
Gotta be specifically for me. Absolutely. Yeah. No doubt about that. So.
Yeah. Go Christmas shopping or something.
Hat tip to you. Thank you very much.
Where's the have a day hat, CJ? I think that deserves have a day.
That does.
Gotta go hat hunting.
Yeah, give him a minute. Yep. There we go.
There you go.
We're having a day.
There you go. Love it.
And mom's proud too. Look at that.
Oh, CJ's just getting so much attention today.
CJ, you think it would take 300 Colt Monroe super chats to get you to that dollar figure?
Yes, and I would answer every single one of those 300 chats. So Colt, if you want 300 questions answered,
Blake, we're apologizing right now. So.
All right, we got a comment here from Longhorn 622. We should hire their O-line coach.
Yeah, I was looking through this, and then I was like, wait a minute. The offensive line coach was Sherrone Moore. Yeah. He was kind of the architect under Jim Harbaugh for that Michigan program. So as fun in theory as that sounds, feels pretty impossible.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be an option. And then Tony Alford to Texas. This one may be a bit more of an option. Super chat from Fazy Wazy 93 here. More of a consideration. I don't know if an option, but what would you guys think about that?
I feel like, with Sark making the move to move on from Chad Scott, for Jabbar Jaluk's name to come up as quickly as it did from reputable sources, that tells me that Sark had a plan and has a target list that's pretty small. If I don't know, I guess if some things fall through, maybe obviously he didn't maybe plan on Tony Alford being available. I don't know. I think Sark really wants somebody with really strong ties to Metro New Orleans. I think, or one of the major metro areas in the South, Atlanta, somewhere like that. I think that's what Sark values over a name or, recruiting chops or whatever. So if the thing with, Jabbar Jaluk, if that doesn't happen or Sark decides to go another direction, maybe, but I don't know. I think he's got his search narrowed down at this point.
No, I think that's absolutely the case. And to your point, Jeff, it feels like when an area on the staff of territorial recruiting opens up, Sark finds a way to recruit that area or recruit a coach to his staff to recruit that area then, to get the foot in the door. So we'll see. But Louisiana is kind of where I'm looking at, saying Texas had a foothold there. Coaches leave. Now how can they find a way back into Louisiana on top of, guys on staff that they already have?
I mean, and other than one season as a high school coach in the state of Florida in 1994, Tony Alford doesn't have really any experience. I guess the most southern job he's ever had, he was the running backs coach at Louisville in 07 and 08. That's it. So I don't think he really fits what Sark is looking for in the staff right now.
All right, we'll get to some more of your comments and a little bit more about this, some of the portal movement that we have coming up. But Jeff, first, can you tell us about our friends over at South Point?
I sure can. At Texas football fans, you can score an easy extra point when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock, including the all-new 2025 Ram 1500. Get the real deal today and drive away in an all-new Ram that's proven to last. Plus, you can get employee incentive pricing. That's right. You pay what their employees pay. That is a real deal. So score big today at South Point Dodge. Check them out off I-35 or at southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge. And let's go ahead and hear from another one of our sponsors with the help of a couple of lifetime Longhorns. Here's a word from our friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
So originally we came on here, CJ was saying he didn't think we'd have anything to talk about today because no portal entries on the Texas end today. But obviously that changed very quickly a couple hours before this show started. But on that note, as far as portal entries goes, there's certain players that are not opting to opt out of the Texas or of the Cheez-It Bowl. Sorry, that was a bit of a wraparound way of saying that. We got a super chat from MRJ62. It's a tribute to Texas's culture that all 5 O-line are playing their bowl game to protect Arch. It speaks volumes. Do you think this holds as far as these players intending to play in this bowl game?
Yeah, I think so for now. And again, I think, look, given your offensive line for what we saw this year and towards the back end, it's Trevor Gooseby potentially returns. This game doesn't do a lot for him to sit out if he's coming back. Brandon Baker, there's no reason to sit out. On the interior, look, for Cole Hudson, for Connor Robertson, for DJ Campbell, if they're headed to the pros, this is a great opportunity to go out there and say, hey, I can handle my business one more time against a team just like Michigan. So, and regardless of what's going on behind the scenes at Michigan or even on the forefront, they still have talent, especially in the trenches. So for those interior guys, I think it says, one, they need the tape, and two, that they're willing to end their Texas career in a big bowl game just like this one. So I think that's exciting. I think that's great for Kyle Flood and Steve Sarkisian. I think ultimately for those guys to say, hey, I want to play one more game with the Burn Orange on, that's great. That's a great testament to them as well.
This is probably not going to be a popular opinion, so I'm going to apologize out front.
Uh-oh.
But I feel the same way about this as I do when I saw people on, social media applauding Sark for Texas, choosing to play in the bowl game and moving forward. When it comes to postseason football, non-CFP postseason football, like the bar is in Hades at this point. Like we have lowered the bar to a point where it doesn't take much to clear it. I feel the same way as everybody apply. And we knew Arch Manning's plan. And when Arch decided to stick it out at Texas, he didn't transfer. It was like, oh man, yeah, great job that he stayed. Like, why are we? I go by the old Chris Rock there. Like, you're not getting credit for things you're supposed to do. Like, why are we going out of our way to applaud somebody for doing something that they're supposed to do? So I don't know. I'm with CJ. I think with the way that group is wired, I think they probably see it more as an opportunity. Hey, let me get some good film on there. Put one more really good performance out there as opposed to opting out. If you're opting out, I think you opt out guys opt out for different reasons. I have no problem with guys opting out. I think injury is a valid reason to opt out. I think if you're a legit, top 100 type NFL draft pick, I think you opt out. But I'm not going to knock guys for opting out, just like I'm not going to go above and beyond praising guys to play another game. It's great that they're there, but I guess, CJ, I'm not giving extra credit for it.
Yeah. It's like a senior at the end of the day, at the end of the class schedule, when they've already passed the class and there's still a final exam and you halfway through it, you're just like, all right, I'm done. Or you could go all the way through and earn that A, right? So I understand it, but I still like to see it. I still think in today's day and age, as you mentioned, Jeff, there's no guarantee that any of your seniors are going to play in a quote unquote meaningless game if it's not a college football playoff. So I like to see it all the way through. And Bratkinson, I wanted to take this question too. Yes, Texas desperately needs and wants all of these 15 practices. Jeff, you've talked about it. Amanda, I've heard you talk about it as well. These are fantastic opportunities for all of these young kids, all of these guys who aren't in the starting 22 right now, especially if they're on the fringe when it comes to, will they be back on the roster next year? Will they need to look elsewhere for playing time? These 15 practices are basically viewed as a spring practice light, for the next season, obviously. And it's an additional tryout to earn your keep and trust of the coaching staff. So it's huge. It's massive.
Yeah. I think when I think about who benefits the most from the bowl practices, I think it's guys like James Simon, a guy like Bo Barnes, like Nick Townsend, like young guys that unless something just completely unforeseen happens, guys that you feel like, hey, they are going to be there when this team gets back in January after the holiday. That's what it's for. It gives those guys, and I really hope that Sark treats some of these bowl practices kind of like you'd treat, some camp practices or spring ball where you're not even really doing anything to game plan for Michigan. It's just like some scrimmage situations where the guys that aren't getting to play, hey, put the ball down, let them go play and use it as an evaluation tool, or let that be film that guys can take with them when they go into the portal if they didn't have much game tape. So that's kind of what I think you need the practices for more than anything.
Yeah, when the discussions were happening about Notre Dame opting out of the bowl and why didn't Sark do the same type of thing? And I think I posted something like this on Twitter of why it's a good thing to play in these bowls. And obviously, I mean, I'm with you, Jeff. I'm not going to give you extra props for doing what you're supposed to do. Like, you get in you get in one of the better bowls of bowl season, you go play in it. Yeah, you're pissed you missed out on the college football playoff. There were things that happened during the season that made you miss the college football playoff. Are you going to go tuck your tail and run home and whine about it? Or are you going to play the sport you signed up to play, knowing that this could be a potential result if you don't do what you're supposed to do during the regular season? But yeah, these 15 practices for a roster that is as young as it is in certain position groups, for players that ended up redshirting during the season and not seeing the in-game play time like maybe they would have wanted, I feel like this is really good experience in those categories, especially like you said, for players that may be thinking about, am I going to get the reps I want to at Texas next year, or am I going to need to look somewhere else when the portal window comes?
Non-CFP postseason games, to me, it's kind of like needing to take a year at community college, right? I didn't handle my business, didn't get into the school I wanted to. So I can look at it one or two ways. I can slack off and be upset and waste a year, or I can go nose to the grindstone and, hey, make the most of it. And maybe I'm out of here in a year. So yeah, that's how I'm looking at non-CFP bowl games. It's a year in community college. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, hey, it's better than the Alamo Bowl. I remember a time when I was just happy that Texas was bowl eligible. I mean, going to school in 2015, 2014 was a dark, dark time. So people need to be thankful.
Yeah, I really, really, and look, this is not, if you live in the San Antonio metro area, I'm not knocking your city or anything, but if Texas never plays in the Alamo Bowl ever again, that'll be just fine with me.
Yeah. I'll knock the city. I think San Antonio stinks.
Oh boy. I feel like some people in the chat are not going to like that. I will say I like San Antonio simply for the Mexican food. Simply for the Mexican food.
You like stopping in and passing right on by.
I mean, it has some spots. I'm not going to sit here and hate on San Antonio.
I'll take the beef.
Okay, you go ahead with that. We got a super chat here from Armando Alanis, expanding the roster to 105 players a factor. I think that's a big factor. That's a big change in what you had, and it's going to make your approach to the portal potentially a little bit different.
Yeah, I look, it was approved. I don't know necessarily when it's going to be implemented. Will it be this year? Will it be 2027? I think that remains to be seen and finalized, but initially, what does this look like for Texas? My first thought were more of, hey, your walk-ons right now, maybe they earn a scholarship to help you keep guys that are looking to just keep a spot at the University of Texas. You can't go out there and get 20 new guys out of the portal. That's just not how that works, right? Now, if you do, it's not going to be high quality, not all 20, obviously, not the highest quality players. So I think that's one of the instances where when you go from 85 to 105, you still have to find ways to make sure that, one, you keep your scout team guys in order. Your guys that are very happy to be at the University of Texas because of the education, because it's a continuation of their football career rather than how much money will I be paid to go play football. If that's kind of what you're looking for, these 86 to 105 scholarships probably won't be spent on you. So yes, it allows you an extra opportunity to find some perhaps higher level players, but at the end of the day, numbers 86 through 105, those are going to be guys that in my opinion, will be on scholarship, but their scholarship will be used for scout team for practice purposes to help you continue what has been used as your walk-on program over the last few years.
Yeah, those last 10 to 20 scholarships, to your point, CJ, I think a lot of coaches will look at it kind of like the NFL looks at a practice squad. Like, hey, these are guys we see something in. Maybe they stick it out for a few years. Maybe we see something that we can develop, or maybe they're here for a year and then they get processed out. So look, but CJ makes a great point that I hope everybody really lets sink in. It doesn't mean going to 105. Hey, let's just go get the 20 best players we can to fill these spots. No, like, some of these schools, it's going to be the equivalent of like, hey, if you want to get to 105, either put some of your current walk-ons on scholarship, or you might as well just like go to the intramural fields and see what you can find. Like that's basically what we're talking about early on. As this continues and you get further along into this, it'll get fleshed out and you'll have a better idea of what that bottom part of your roster, how it's going to be made up. But right now, yeah, I'd say probably those last 10 to 15 scholarships are basically going to be like, hey, the walk-ons that we really want to keep, just go ahead and put them on scholarship.
And also wanted to bring this up real quick. Women's basketball really putting belt to you-know-what against UTRGV, one of my former homes for 2 years. Not UTGRV, but McAllen, Texas. So, yeah, I mean, no surprise there.
Props to Vic for playing that game in Edinburgh, by the way, going all the way down.
It's a place. Yeah, very kind people.
It's a place, huh? Is that the best you got to say?
They just need a new basketball arena is all. I mean, they converted the old soccer stadium into their football stadium. I lived in McAllen for 2 years, starting in the pandemic. So, yeah.
Sandman's the type of guy to say his girlfriend always went to the other school, and that's why no one ever saw him before. So
It's kind of secluded. It's pretty far down there. It's an 8-hour drive from DFW, which is where I'm from. So
I really hope that they flew, that they were able to get on a plane to play that game, because I know like the baseball team a couple of years ago, they did the road trip to Edinburgh and did the bus, and I didn't hear from anybody in the baseball program that thought like that was a great experience, that bus trip home from Edinburgh.
McAllen Airport is very easy to fly to, and it's actually pretty nice if you walk into it. Would not recommend the Harlingen Airport, though. And somebody asked why I lived there. I was a sports director at a TV station there for 2 years. So I was unfortunately locked into a contract when the pandemic hit, and it was a pretty quiet 2 years of my life. So not the best place to live when you're 26. Say. I also got a comment up here. I wanted to bring this up real quick. My friend just opened a bar. This comment, my friend just opened a barbecue spot in downtown Austin called Two Goose. I don't think they ship out of state, but if you're in the Austin area, definitely go check them out. Her husband is a fantastic cook and fantastic smoker of barbecue. So
what's it called?
Two Goose. I can put it in the chat here, but definitely swing by. It's on Lamar, I want to say.
All right.
But yeah.
I'll go. I like me some. Guess I got to be careful here. I like some barbecue.
You like some barbecue? Yeah. What kind of barbecue do you not like? I feel like you were teetering on that.
Look, whatever's good, I like.
Okay, I'm putting the address here in the chat. So they just opened, only 10 Google reviews so far. So go hit them up and give them a Google review. She was my little in my sorority. So she would, she's a Zeta just like me. So go give her some support.
Cisco read my mind. But I didn't say it, so you can't clip it.
I was about to say, were you going to say you don't like barbecue or?
No, I love barbecue.
I get it. Maybe maybe don't say it that way, but
all right, back to football.
Go share them. Anyways, while we're on the subject of food, the Cheez-It Bowl. What's everybody's favorite Cheez-It? I think I like the original or white cheddar.
Don't like Cheez-Its. I'm a Goldfish guy.
Oh boy, those are so bland. I feel like Cheez-Its.
What are Cheez-Its?
They're so much more bold. Like
variety pack, blue, green, whatever. Or what is it? The green and the red, whatever comes in that. I think it's the white cheddar. Yeah.
Look, if I want something a cheesy snack, I'm going like Doritos or Cheetos. I'm not a Cheez-It. I'm not even like a Goldfish guy. I'm just not a cheese cracker guy.
I even lied. I don't even like Goldfish. I like the whales. Remember those?
Yeah,
whales were unbelievable.
Cheez-Its were like my number one. Like I would grab Cheez-Its. Because I didn't like Goldfish as much because they just tasted like a little bland. Though a Goldfish bowl might be more fun. Get it? Like a Goldfish bowl game. I feel like that might be a little more fun than a Cheez-It bowl game.
Having a 7-year-old, I've had to get acquainted with the snack game to make sure that the pantry is stocked. But even like when my daughter was younger, like, you know, she loved Goldfish, like when she's like, 3 or 4. I never really dug it though. I'd like you reach in there every now and then, like grab a couple of Goldfish, just our Cheez-Its. She loves Cheez-Its too. Not really my thing. She did have, when she was a baby, this was like, learn how to walk and eat. And there was like these little, like, I don't know, like they're kind of like puffy Cheetos, but they're like really small circles. I think Gerber made them. Those were actually good. And I did get in trouble for eating too many of those. She's like, hey, those are really expensive. Stop eating the toddler snacks. So.
That's something a dad would do. Yeah, somebody commented that whales are the weird tasting. Yeah, the whales are the generic goldfish or the weird tasting goldfish. That's what I remember the whales as. I liked the name brand ones.
No whale slander here.
Okay, back to football now. We got a super chat from Shin the Master Sparky. Who's y'all's early pick to win the college football playoff? I'll get y'all's first. I have mine.
I still like Ohio State. I think that was a little bit of a hiccup, obviously, and we saw it last year too, losing to Michigan. They then went into the playoff and was a completely different team, it felt like. I'm not saying they're going to do that exactly. They had a different quarterback, a lot of different pieces, but I think that this team just still is as talented. And believe it or not, they were a 27-yard field goal away from tying that game up. I know that might sound crazy, but 27 yards, man.
I could hit that even with my arthritic knee.
There's folks in this chat probably that could have hit. Sandman could have made that.
To me, it's the dogs. It's Georgia to me. Indiana, I think, is the best. They're not the most talented, but I think they play the best team football of anybody in the playoff. But I think Georgia's got the best combination of a complete team in all three phases, a quarterback that I actually trust. Which, if you start looking at some of these teams in the playoff and ask yourself, like, which quarterback do you trust? Gunnar Stockton ends up being really higher on the list than you might initially think. And I just think I'm not going to say Georgia's like just a great offense, but they're diverse enough to where they can win a few different ways. So to me, I'll go with Georgia.
And one thing you'll always have with Georgia is that defense. And whether they have the top dogs up front like we've seen in recent years or kind of take a step back in that front this year, we've seen Kirby dial it up when he needs to. So, Jeff, I think I know I let some thoughts get out earlier this week. I think Kirby's probably the best coach in the country, and I'd take him over Ryan Day. I'd take him over just about anybody else in the playoffs. Just the way that I know his special teams, and we saw it in the SEC championship game once again, his special teams are going to be a threat.
Yeah, somebody I forgot who mentioned it. Thumbs up vibe said, Georgia will lay an egg like they did last year. I think the difference between, for me, Georgia this year and Georgia last year, the Georgia team last year was, I think, more talented than this team. But last year, man, we saw in the SEC championship game, Georgia was so beat up by the end of the year. And I think that team had to empty the tank to beat Texas the second time. And even though they had extra time off before the Sugar Bowl against Notre Dame, I just didn't think they didn't fill up the cup fast enough or get it filled enough to go play a really good Notre Dame team. So I like I said, Georgia's not as talented as they were last year, but I think they might be a better team, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I filled out 2 brackets. I filled out the bracket of what I would want to happen, which has Indiana winning and every single one of our rivals losing in the first game they have. And then I built out a bracket of what I thought was actually going to happen, which has Georgia winning. And somebody commented, nobody will say the Aggies. And I don't mean this as a slight on the Aggies, but they have Miami first round. I feel like that one could go either way, but it's a much more difficult matchup than they would have gotten if they were ranked a spot higher.
But it's an easier matchup than if Notre Dame would have made the playoffs.
Yeah.
They beat Notre Dame, but Notre Dame, based off of what I've seen over the last two months, they run the ball so much more effectively than anybody else in this playoff that what can A&M not stop at all? It's that outside zone. I thought that was the significantly tougher matchup for A&M than Miami.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say they're a dark horse because of their defense as well. I mean, they have an explosive offense, but you have teams like Arkansas putting up 42 points on your defense. Their rushing defense has been dismal all year. And it's a big concern because you saw what happened when they play a team with a bit more competent of an offense and a bit more competent of a defense. It doesn't end well with them. And I mean, you can say what you want to about the skill levels of other conferences, but at the end of the day, A&M played the entire bottom half of the SEC with the exception of Texas. Yeah. And so you only have so much to go off of what they have. And Marcel Reed is a good quarterback, but he has suffered under pressure the last 2 games. I mean, when you are held to nothing against South Carolina, and that's one of your most the first half, and that's one of your most recent pieces of work, that gives me sign for concern. Now, they will have Le'Veon Moss back, so that is a little more firepower to their run game. But he has been out all season, so who knows what he can really offer as far as how conditioned he will be to come back in a game like this. But my point with A&M is, even if they beat Miami, who are they going to face in that second round?
It doesn't matter who they play. They won't win anything because the quarterback isn't very good.
Yeah.
Heard it here first. I hope there's no Hope no Aggies are on this because they will. I mean, he
They
had
know.
a Heisman campaign launched for him before the Texas game, but that was short and sweet.
Yeah,
Like
they just
Grant
wasted
Carpenter
time.
would say.
Yeah,
So
they're not beating Ohio State. I mean, that's just it's not going to happen. And Hefty Tacos in the chat read my mind when I'm thinking about that Miami Texas A&M game. Miami, look, if Texas can run the ball against A&M as bad as the Texas run game was this year, Miami surely can control the line of scrimmage against A&M with their run game. The difference is, man, I just said, I may trust Gunnar Stockton as much as any quarterback in this field. I know I 1,000% trust Carson Beck the least of any quarterback that's in this field. Like, take JMU and Tulane out of it. Carson Beck is at the very, 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 very bottom of the list of the other 10 quarterbacks. And there's a sizable gap between him. I trust Baron Morton way more than I trust Carson Beck. And I don't trust Baron Morton hardly at all. Like, that's how little I think of Carson Beck at this point. Like, he's probably going to have a couple of turnovers in that game that will keep A&M in it or seal it for him. That's why I can't pick Miami to win that game, because Carson Beck.
yeah, I agree with you there. And yeah, Marcel Reed, the thing is, he was as good as his receivers, and his receivers also, when they're facing a better secondary, they proved to struggle a bit against Texas. I mean, Casey Concepcion is very, very good. Mario Craver is very, very good. They were both beat up in the Texas game, so that's one thing to consider. But yeah, I'm hesitant to completely ride with Miami here because of the Carson Beck situation as well. But I don't know. So that one I could consider a toss-up. But yeah, I personally do not think they're getting past Ohio State either.
That's that whole thing. Rod's always talked about this, and I agree with Rod on this. Hey, when you talk about big games, you got to ask yourself, hey, which coach and quarterback do you trust more? In that game, like, Marcel Reed and Mike Elko win by default because I don't trust Carson Beck, and I dang sure don't trust Mario Cristobal to push all the right buttons in a big close game. No way.
Hey, I'm glad we get at least 2 good first-round games. That's it.
At least 2. Yeah, Marcel Reed does have some feet, so he can run the football pretty decently. But just when you put pressure on him, he does some dirt balls, and he does some balls that are very easily intercepted. All right, y'all make sure to get any more questions in. If you have them, we'll get to them right after we hear from our friends over at Von Lane. This fall, travel is picking up. Weekend getaways, business trips, and holiday visits are on everyone's schedule. But for Longhorn fans, there's one destination that stands out, Austin. Whether you're headed in town for the last big home games or to see family for the holidays, Von Lane is the smartest way to get there. Step aboard and skip the stress of the airport and the grind of the highway with terminals just minutes from your final destination. Von Lane redefines comfort and convenience. Each luxury coach offers only 22 first-class seats with Wi-Fi, snacks, beverages, hot towel service, and on select routes, complimentary meal service, all delivered with unmatched attention to detail. You'll arrive relaxed, refreshed, and ready for kickoff or ready for family time. Book now at vonlane.com and save $20 on your first trip with code OTF25. Von Lane, elevated regional travel, serving Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, Plano, the Woodlands, Nashville, Memphis, Atlanta, and Knoxville. And Jeff, will you tell us about our friends over at Hayes City Store?
I sure can, Amanda. There are very few restaurants that when you go to them once, you know right away it's a special place, and Hayes City Store is one of those places. Scratch-made Texas comfort food is what they're all about. They've got their famous truck stop enchiladas, their award-winning chicken fried steak, their homemade desserts. It's all good, and it's all made from scratch. They've got 13 TVs in their ice house that makes for the perfect game day setup. And if you're out there on Sunday, they've got that brunch menu going from 10 to 3 every Sunday. Hayes City Store is dog friendly. They've got a tree net for the kids, plenty of space to run around. So gather up your whole crew and head on out to Hayes City Store. For more information, you can check out the website at hayescitystore.tx.com. Hayes City Store, it's uniquely Texas.
All right. If y'all have any more questions, make sure to get them in. Super chats jump to the top of our list. We got a couple more questions about this coaching search. One from Jake Jones 2912. Was there anything that kept Rashad Samples from getting the job last year?
Not directly that I had heard. I think Sark just went the different direction. Of course, Chad Scott at the time had connections to the East Coast, could get you into the Carolinas, the Virginias. He obviously had connections down to Florida as well. And again, that's kind of what we've talked about, is when there is a coaching opening at the University of Texas. Over the last 3 or 4 years, Sarkis found ways to target specific areas of the recruiting map and made sure that his new coaching hires has connections or some sort of foothold in that area. And I think for Chad Scott, that's exactly what happened with that hiring. So we'll see. Again, there's plenty of options right now. The two, again, that come to mind at the moment, Frank Wilson out of LSU and Jabbar Jalouk, who was previously at Florida and was not retained. So those are the two that I'm monitoring at the moment. EJ Barthel is another one to keep an eye on out of Nebraska. I don't believe there's anything to Tony Alford as well, not at the moment.
But the thing you got to remember too, when Texas hired Chad Scott, it was really late in the process. Like, because Tashard Choice, I think it was February 13th, he accepted the job with the Lions. So a lot of teams at that point, if you're not into spring ball, you're pretty close to it. So you just didn't have a ton of great options to go out there. And a coach like Rashad Samples, like, you're probably gonna be settled into your job at that point. So wasn't a deep pool. Sark made the best call to do it. And I don't think Chad Scott's a bad coach. I just don't think it was a fit at Texas. And I think both parties are probably gonna be better off for going their separate ways. So I know anytime a position coach opening comes up that, Rashad's name comes up, and rightfully so. Like, he's got deep ties to a talent-rich part of the state, so it makes sense. But and I'm not saying he's not a fit on the staff at all, but like, this is what I'm talking about, and why sometimes assistant coach hires frustrate me is because you just, hey, this guy's got name value, like, go get him. Okay, well, he may not be the best fit on the staff. Like, I would rather Sark take his time and get the right. Like, did any of us think Tashard Choice was a slam dunk hire when they made it? Did any of us think Chris Jackson was a slam dunk hire when Sark made it? No, but so more often than not, Sark tends to get these things right. So I'll trust him. Like I said, the Chad Scott thing, it didn't work out. You got a chance to kind of make over your mistake, make over the run game, and you do it right now. So and look, it may be Jabbar Jalouk, it might not. So, but I feel like Sark at this point has a plan, and with the portal opening when it does here in a couple of weeks, I think he'd like to probably have that running backs coach figured out by the time the portal opens.
I think so.
Yeah, and we got a question from Mark B. Who would y'all rather have? Do you guys have a preference for who you think would be a good fit?
I mean, for me, go ahead, CJ.
I think you're working with two really talented coaches that can develop and evaluate at a very high level. Look, Jabbar Jalouk has Leonard Fournette, Darius Geis, Trevor Etienne. He recruited Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? Found Elijah Mitchell and Kenneth Dixon at ULL and La Tech. Like, that is a great eye for talent. On top of that, Frank Wilson at Louisiana, I mean, basically can walk into any city, any county, any bar and just, be served. He's got the red carpet rolled out wherever he goes. So I think those are two very, very strong options. I like Frank Wilson because I think what happens now is you also pick away a little bit from Lane Kiffin. And we know that Lane Kiffin is probably going to have an all-star staff at LSU. If you can keep him from that staff while bolstering your spot, I think that's the best case right now for Texas.
Not that it's a deal breaker or anything, but I think you've also got to consider Frank Wilson still the interim coach at LSU right now and is getting them ready for the bowl game. So it could be, hey, he may just want to, and there hasn't been a ton, at least that's got out publicly, a ton of movement with his future on Lane Kiffin's staff. So they may be trying to still figure out some stuff. That's why, like, I lean more Jabbar Jalouk just because of the availability of the two. I mean, it's a dicey thing, man. Like, Frank Wilson may be the better fit, but I mean, you don't want to wait too long and then miss out not just on your guy, but maybe your plan B, C, and D. So it's a dicey thing. But yeah, I mean, I'll trust Sark on this. But I guess to answer the question, I would say Jabbar Jalouk, just because you've got to wait until Frank Wilson's done with his obligations at LSU at this point.
We got another question here from Norma Taja. Does Texas try to poach Malik Lee in the portal? I mean, I don't see why not if he's in it.
Well, yeah, here's the thing though. Malachi Lee doesn't have to enter the portal unless he actually enrolls and sets foot in a class at Michigan, then he will have to go in the portal. But you got to remember too, the portal, you've only got that one window that's open. You don't have the spring window. So at this point, it might behoove him to just wait and figure out all his options and not enroll. So yeah, they won't. The only thing that has to happen at this point is he has to request to be released from his national letter of intent obligations at Michigan. That's it. So, and Michigan, they can release him, and at this point, I don't see why they wouldn't, given the circumstances. But yeah, it's not a portal deal with Malachi Lee.
Yeah, but I mean that's an addition I think would be positive for Texas. All right, if y'all got no more questions, then that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's a great show. For On Texas Football and this Longhorn Livestream, I'm Amanda Atwell. That's Jeff Howe and CJ Vogel. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Good night, and hook 'em horns. Make sure to watch Coffee and Football tomorrow morning.
Matthew.